Good morning. Welcome to the Jungle Podcast. I'm your host, Dakota Ward, joined here this morning by my good friend, Rick Forbus of Trove Incorporated. He's an executive advisor and coach, a musician, a public speaker, and a whole bunch of other things. Rick, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be alive. Glad to be up. How about you?
Yeah, man, I'm blessed to say the same. So good morning, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Next time we'll have to do it in person. We're getting our studio set up. Our new studio, in Sandy Springs. So next time we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Well, cool, Rick. Again, thanks for coming on. Let's jump into it. It should be a fun show, and hopefully a little educational as far as what you do and why you do it. So I'd like to first just ask you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got into what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Hey, well, thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate all that you guys do in the marketing field. I got into this full time about 18 years ago. I have background in, education and ministry and being an entrepreneur. I owned a small publishing company with my dad years ago. I had actually had a recording label many years ago. Worked as a studio musician in my college and graduate level days. Love music, love art. My father was kind of a Renaissance man. He was a business guy, and he would reach over us sometime at night and work on an oil painting over our heads, as little kids. It was that kind of lifestyle, a lot of music in the home, a lot of laughter. Grew up in the Mississippi Delta, which got me knowing your dad and you and all those guys that might understand what the Mississippi Delta is like.
Yeah, man, that's God's country.
Yeah, man. Grew up 100 miles south of Memphis in the home of rhythm and blues, man. I mean, it just was wonderful. Wonderful growing up. Quick story, I always had an interest in psychology. I had minors at my bachelor's and graduate level in counseling. I just always have wanted to help people. Then I decided to pursue a PhD just in IO psychology, which is industrial and organizational psychology, measuring cultures and helping organizations of all kinds. Just that whole human factor is what gets me up in the morning. And I'm married, got a couple grown sons and 6 grandkids, and just love life, man. I work every day in the coaching industry or training employees and things like that.
Yeah. Awesome. So, and that's wonderful. I mean, 6 grandkids. Wow.
Yeah.
How blessed. Rick, tell us a little bit about Trove Incorporated and kind of how you guys manage your day to day. And then I'll ask you a little bit about their marketing after that.
Yeah. So Trove Incorporated was an idea. I had a consulting firm and I was looking for a business partner back around 2005, 2006 early. Sure. I had some areas in my wheelhouse that I knew I could offer because I already had clients. I was looking for the business partner that brought what I call the psychometric side, an expert in measurement through assessments like Berkman and DISC and other Myers-Briggs. I needed somebody like that. So I found Dr. Ron Young. He found me. I found him. Through an executive placement firm, and we joined forces, kind of dated for a while, keeping the same brand, individual brands. And then we were branded as Trove. And I think I shared this little story with you. A company here in Atlanta helped us discover what we should call ourselves. Mm-hmm. Basically, the name Trove came from us. Basically, what we do is we go into organizations of all kinds and try to mine for talent. Where is the treasure? I mean, every employee, every person brings something great to the organization, but many times because of introversion or extroversion or whatever, their personality might get in the way of what they're doing. So we try to go in there, and we don't try. We've been very successful at it. We go in and mine for talent. We try to find the Trove.
Sure.
So they tagged us with that name, and we love it. And a lot of people ask us about it. And it's just one syllable, and hey, man, it's a powerful syllable. So that's what Trove is. So that we're up and down the employee engagement spectrum, from curriculum type training to retreats to lots and lots of one-on-one coaching in offices from the C-suite all the way down into the director level. So we're just in the professional development thing, trying to help people get better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important today, now than ever, is getting people to be better. But Rick, you might say that you guys are kind of like treasure hunters. You're out there searching for the right gold that fits the treasure chest at the moment. So we might call you Nicolas Cage here in a little bit.
Yeah, we kind of, one of our first retreats after having formed as a new brand many years ago now, we started calling each other Trovians.
Oh, that's awesome.
We just try to tag some noun, description of what we do. We all, it's kind of bayonet in your teeth and go in with sometimes dysfunctional organizations, and they're really great, but they just are misaligned, and it's kind of fun. It is a little bit like Raiders of the Lost Talent,
There you go. Raiders of the Lost Talent. That's awesome. Well, cool. So tell me a little bit about how you guys are helping professionals. Maybe a couple examples, a couple of stories of how you guys do that, how that impacts you personally, and maybe just the gratification of placing somebody in a job that they've been hoping and looking to get, but just needed the little extra advice, the little extra expertise, the little extra coaching that you guys provide.
I'll give you a couple of kind of mind maps. I use a lot of logic models and mind maps because, coaching is intangible. If I were in a coaching agreement with you, I would be try to discover by strategic questioning, much like a trial lawyer. I would wear you out in coaching sessions with questions like, Dakota, how could you become that? Or how could you rearrange your schedule to have that breakthrough there? So I use a lot of strategic questioning. And so we work, I'll give you a government example, a military example, and I'll give you a corporate example.
Okay.
But we wake up in the morning because of my belief system, my core values. I decided not to be a shrink or therapist type of coach, or just a rah life coach. I'm gonna use my hand here and try to get it in the center of the camera. I'm a holistic coach. Let me keep your hand still here. I will ask you about your professional life, your personal life, your physical life, your legacy. That's what you're being while you're doing what you're doing, your legacy life, and your spiritual life. Sure. I get permission, even in the most secular settings, to ask those 5 questions. And it's one of the reasons that's our niche in the market. I tell people we're kind of like a Bentley showroom. I mean, we do it really different. We don't have to have lots and lots and lots of head count to be a successful company, because we bring this holistic approach in. And so we both have counseling backgrounds, the partners do. And then when we bring someone onto our team, they've got to understand this. This is how Trove does it. It's holistic. So Dakota showed up this morning. Every bit of that showed up this morning for work to be successful. So that's one of the frameworks that we use. We also use a triangle. So if I was going to ask a set of questions, and I'll give you one real quickly for each of those examples, is on the left side of the triangle is your tactical expertise. That's your resume.
Okay.
Right? The right side of the triangle is your emotional makeup, your personality type, the stress behaviors you deal with every day, addictions, all kind of crazy things, your baggage. That's your emotional intelligence. And then we deal with situational characteristics. So if you're a new employee, that has the bottom of that triangle has a different set of situational characteristics than somebody that's kind of tapped out. They're bored with their job. They've been in it too long. They're a company person. They're no longer innovative. So you can see how working around that triangle, that keeps the client and us inside of a framework. Now, we have all kinds of programs, and we work on the core competency level of leadership and on the management side. But so, for instance, the CDC, that's one of our government contracts. We've been in there 12 or 13 years. Wow. Every one of those people are smarter than me and my partner. I mean, I did a retreat for them some years back, and everybody in the room for that retreat for 3 days had an MD or a PhD, and many of them had both. So they're very brilliant people that need help with the right side of the triangle. How do I engage? How do I what I'm telling my coworkers, how do I land the plane? How does I get buy-in? So that's the emotional side. That's not about IQ. That's about EQ.
Okay.
We've done several long projects in there where we are helping them build their little coalitions inside of these huge health centers. We have 6 campuses here in Atlanta. How do you take your team, your pod of expert scientists, and build some synergy and build some fun and build strong communication? So that's one of the government. We've worked with the U.S. Army out at Fort Jackson in South Carolina, a huge, huge place.
Yeah.
I have this in my first book, Sensible Leadership. One of the most unbelievable things happened to me. I sat with 12 or 13 high-level soldiers with a general sitting to my left, they wanted to know how our assessments work, because soldiers come out of theater, they have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Sure.
And how can we help them measure that without us doing it transactionally? In other words, we can't deal with that many. I mean, they don't have enough psychologists or chaplains to deal with it. So I took them through how our assessment works. I mean, I was rocking and rolling, Dakota. For 90 minutes, I didn't shut up. I was showing them how this thing worked. I was really excited about it because I could almost get a lump in my throat thinking about a soldier having a breakthrough with a stress behavior that he's brought back home to America after fighting. Got really fired up about it, And so I stood up. Lieutenant Colonel Wackerhagen was the guy that was hosting me that day.
Wow. Yeah.
Officers Club. And I stood up, and the general shook my hand. He said, "Man, Dr. Forbus, that was so exciting. Thank you for your energy." And he put something in my hand. And so I got in the Jeep and we rode over and had lunch. The Lieutenant Colonel, I said, "What is this?" And I opened up my hand and I had a coin in it. I had one. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these, but this was an award coin that they give a soldier for great heroic work. And all I had done was I just did my thing. I do it every day. I talk about assessments and people. And he said, "What's that about?" He said, "The general just thought you were like all in, man." And I was, because I like people. I love to see breakthrough. So that was a military example. And I write about that in that book. But, we even work in the corporate with PR firms and marketing firms with trying to get very talented, innovative people to dial in. I was working with one international PR firm, and one of the problems the young talent was having was everybody was excited about the brand or the tagline, the brand equity or the pitch, but nobody was invoicing. They were all creative brains, and so I was helping them try to dial in that personality. We have to at some point be transactional thinkers. It's not everything's dimensional creativity. So that's kind of all over the map of our clients, what they're like. So we're helping them tap into who they are, overcome whatever their personality struggles might be. And sometimes just somebody like me just talking too much, because I love life so much, I have to be careful as a coach to listen. So we're working around that personality, trying to get that into a strategic focus so that they can actually be a well-rounded executive. We call it executive agility.
Agility.
Yeah. So that you can be really agile with whoever, a millennial pitching to a 60-year-old CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've got to figure that out right there. There's some language shaping and mind shaping and all that would go on. So that's just kind of giving you a snapshot of the programs that we do at Trove.
Yeah. And that's great insight. And I mean, what an honor to be able to kind of showcase, your work and see it, come to fruition, within the United States military. And Rick, do you still have that coin?
Oh man. Yeah. So I was like a little kid. I come back from South Carolina to Atlanta. We go back and I got another coin later, but that first one just blew my doors off.
Wow.
I was like a little kid. I kept it in my pocket for a while around the house. And if I commuted into Buckhead, I had it in my pocket and I would take it out and put it on the dashboard of the car and look at it. And then I put it up in the breakfast room, and so I could look at it. So I still have it. To answer your question.
That is awesome. That reminds me of,
fun,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just what an honor. And so it reminds me of when I was a kid, because you talk about being a kid and carrying around like your favorite toy. My dad loves to tell this story because I had kind of going along the lines with the military was a little G.I. Joe action figure.
Yeah.
And upstairs, if you remember, last time that you were at my parents' house, there's a banister with all all of the poles in between. And so I was walking up and down that banister with that toy in hand and hitting against each one of those brackets. And so it was like, back and forth. And eventually my dad just got angry and was like, Dakota, would you cut it out? And, I don't remember this, but the way he tells the story is I looked at him with a straight face and I said, I didn't do it. He did it.
Oh, yeah. That's the right side of the triangle, Dakota. I need to work with you on deferring and placing blame somewhere,
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. I think we have had our GI Joe stories.
Yeah.
But just like the first time I met you, and I went to London with your parents. We had a great time. So their history and architectural buffs, and your dad's like a walking encyclopedia anyway. But just a lot of fun, growing up in Mississippi. But first time I met you, what happens with people that are excited about life and they're articulate and they're giving their best. I knew that you, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your skirt here, but you're a winner, and that's fun, man. In the coaching business, I don't coach a whole bunch of losers,
Yeah.
It's fun to coach people that are motivated and help them go up to that next level. And I love your story because it tells me even more about you, how weird you really are.
Oh, I'm weird.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. So thank you for saying that. Which kind of leads me into my next question. I wanted to ask you, just because you gave the example of the CDC, how have you guys been managing that currently? Are they still an active client? And there's got to be a lot of stress there that you guys are helping to deal with.
Well, right now it's kind of an ebb in our relationship with them, only because of the COVID thing. I coached into the beginning of the COVID.
Yeah,
I was coaching probably into April or May with some individuals over there, but the CDC is like any large government agency. Others that we've worked with, they have a season. They offer requests for proposals, so it's kind of seasonal. But we've been in there, I think, 13 years on it, almost solid.
Wow.
Different kind of projects, same things we do in corporate. Corporate would hire us for. So like, for instance, they hire a new executive vice president, and this person has never been a part of that culture. So they go through the hiring process, and many times we will be a part of the onboarding, not the core values of that brand as much as assessing them, being able to begin to coach them, and then we as a team are measuring the culture that they're in. So if a person goes to Hewlett Packard, and they're coming from a competitive brand, there is something like a family reunion that's got to start happening, a marriage between culture. So we do that executive assessment. I talk in my notes a little bit about the executive assessment. So we try not to just rely on our own tuitions, like at the CDC. They're all smart. They may be coming from another health department somewhere, a state thing, or they're coming from a university. Many of them come out of the public health departments of universities. They'll come in and serve at the CDC for a little while. Whereas in corporate, there's actually a lot of churn inside of corporate brands now, more than I've ever seen. You always have that competitiveness between a PR firm and a marketing firm trying to get somebody else's talent. But recently, I've seen a lot of churn inside of organizations. And I think there's just kind of been an uneasiness the last couple of years. People are not as brand loyal as maybe when I was growing up. There's a lot of people have, they go through life with 10, 30-month tenures. But with that said, that keeps us busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we're doing. We're the outsiders that can come in unbiased. And we start with the personality type and stress behaviors, and then we get into sometimes what I call is more consulting around the 5 essentials of management, recognizing every MBA program across the country about, that's delegation, planning, problem solving, decision making, and meeting management. We talk about those 5, and we actually train in those, and then we leadership core competencies. So that's things like aligning people, setting direction, motivating and inspiring people, leading change, all of these core competencies. So all of that's a part of a program,
Right. So that's part of that executive assessment that you're talking about, correct?
Yeah. So we have a battery of assessments. It's, in an intake packet when somebody joins, wants a program, and we have a lot of individuals that hire us out inside of companies. It's not always a company contract. Sometimes it's an individual. But all of that to say, we go at it the same way. We don't expect I've been at it a long time, that go on my own tuition that, man, this is what this person needs. We always do like a medical doctor. We do a battery of assessments so we know exactly how they're benchmarked or normed against the world, basically.
Sure.
Our assessments are highly valid. They've been validated with big numbers of people of all ethnic backgrounds and even language groups.
Yeah.
So it gives us a real look at, okay, this is where you fit in the world,
Yeah.
kind of an approach.
Yeah. I mean, it's problem solving almost in a way. And, if every company was able to perfectly execute their strategy, you might be out of a job, but luckily, people are flawed. And so getting to that root of that problem is oftentimes more than not, just from the human nature. And so, knowing how to assess that, whether it's through the stress indicators and how you respond to that, or it's just the personality trait and how do you best, mold that to their best abilities and their best talents.
Well, think of it. I coached an Olympic athlete some years back.
Oh, wow.
She's with City out of Brooklyn, New York, City Group, SITI.
Okay.
And she's a winner. So when so she taught me something. I mean, of course, she was a winner, period. Like,
Olympic.
She's the fastest female at Brown University.
Oh, wow.
And was on she was what they call a backup for the '96 Olympics here in Atlanta. So when I'm coaching her, I'm asking her a bunch of questions about elite behavior.
Sure.
You think about it. Let's say they're at your company. Everybody's probably bright. Everybody's probably really good at what they do. But if you can take it up, and this is what she taught me, if you can take it up 8% or 15% intangibly and bring more, 10% more innovation, 10% more productivity, 10% more synergy, 10% more fun. I mean, I'm just being incremental here.
Sure.
That's elite behavior. And that's what Colette taught me. Even as her coach, I kept asking, how do you, so she's telling me it's really about half of seconds once you're the best runner at Brown. It's a half a second. It's like NASCAR. It's about 1/100th of a second to win. And when you start thinking about that, when I hired a coach myself, I'm already fired up.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, not be egotistical, I'm already bright. I'm already experienced. But what if I can take Trove up 12%? Right. Because I have a coach. You start thinking about this. This is elite behavior. It's more than good to great. It's great to elite. That's what separates regularly great folks and companies from, the elite companies.
Yeah.
And that's the investment. That's the fun part, is watching somebody's already great go to a new level. And it's not really, it's just incremental sometimes.
Well, and that speaks to just, your level of, maturity and just knowing that, as bright and as accomplished as you are, there's always more to learn. And so I don't know if you know this, Rick, but I follow a little bit of Stoicism because it touches on a lot of things throughout Christianity, and then it kind of tells it in more of a secular, easier way to understand sometimes. And there's a quote that comes to mind is that it's impossible to learn what you think you already know. And so having you guys coming in, knowing that there is more that you've got to learn, just having that open mindset already elevates you.
That's right. And I love that quote. It's really true. That's a blind spot. When you get down to just kind of colloquialism version of that is, get out of your own stinking way. That most people that are really talented, in this, and I don't coach just in the C-suite, but because Dr. Young and I are partners and we've been in it a while, many times they want us, obviously, just like in a law firm. I love coaching down in the millennial level because that emerging talent that makes that discovery about elite behavior versus great behavior, actually beyond the company. Excuse me. That is what gets exciting. Get out of your own way. Let's look at this. I use a term that's from Eastern thought. This is another. I love that you're bringing up a philosophical stance to this, but
Sure.
I've studied Eastern thought because in a lot beyond Christianity, because in the world of psychometrics and behavioral measurement, that is a really crazy place, right? And when you think, so I use the term preferred futuring. Can you live a lifestyle of preferred futuring? In other words, you get up every day and you are building towards a preferred future. Think about what that unlocks in human behavior. And you get to somebody that's already successful, and you can get them to think about unlocking. So they're leaning forward in life, and their preferred futuring, their set of behaviors is based on a preferred future, not just a future.
Right.
We can't predict the future, but we can actually prepare for a greater future by the way we live and the way we think.
Yeah.
Great things come to people that are living greatly,
Absolutely. I love quotes. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm always posting quotes, and then with a little side thought to it. But another one that comes to mind is a guy that I look up to. I actually have a poster on my wall of Winston Churchill. And he talked about how, and I'm losing my train of thought here, but he talks about how it just takes, that little extra step, right? And so it's keeping yourself, ahead. And he says, the farther back I look, the farther forward I can see.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, McLean, my older son, went to London. Actually, he was on his way to Russia to do some mission work. He spent some time in London years ago and brought me back. It's right back here on my bookshelf somewhere.
Yeah.
Winston Churchill. It's a great book. Bought it at a little shop. Maybe it's at the Churchill Museum, War Museum. That's
wow. Yeah.
I think that's where he might have gotten it. But it's just full of some crazy, wonderful quotes by Churchill. He lived this preferred futuring. He was all, and anybody that has good mental health, that I know that's not why I should be on here today necessarily, but mental health, if you're in poor mental health, you don't live an optimistic life. Optimism, you're not born with optimism or pessimism. Your social norms in growing up can shape that, but you get up and choose optimism every day. That's a preferred futuring lifestyle. Yeah. And when you're doing that, you have better physical health and better mental health. That's that holistic thing that we'll be talking about.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, many times I will write a fictitious prescription for an executive that you need to take 3 days end to end and don't do anything. Just go hang, man.
Yeah.
Go get in the river and fly fish. I think that's something you enjoy too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, those are the days that when I decompress and I'm working on my mental health and I'm preferred futuring, great business ideas, innovation all happens because of, physically being able to slow down and let my mental health bloom. So that's another part of what coaching is, that it's not just executive stuff. It is mental health,
Sure. Well, I mean, just like a car, you can't drive forever. You've eventually got to pull over at the exit and get some gas. So, a lot of times we're running on fumes because, it feels right. Like I'm working hard, but well, hang on, like take a break, go get some gas, right? See how much farther you can go.
Yeah. I love people, Dakota. And I don't like all of them, but I love people. I don't love every personality type I work with, but I really dive in. I almost like parachute into their world.
Sure.
And I really try to do everything in my ability to help them have a breakthrough of some sort. And one of the worst kind of projects that we get sometimes are those where it's coaching's mandated, the company's going to pay for it. And so there's this roster, and there'll be invariably 20% of them don't want coaching. That's a tough place to be.
Sure.
But many times some of that 20% will have a breakthrough. But the other 80%, man, they never knew what hit them because they've never had the opportunity to have a coach get in their world with them and get honest and get transparent. I don't play, man. I sucker punch people with great coaching questions,
Sure.
I always ask them, are you going to be okay? I'm not a therapist. I can be a therapist, but I don't want to be your therapist. I want to help you. So I'm going to have to ask you some questions nobody else is willing to ask. Even your spouse isn't going to ask this, but let me ask it,
Yeah.
and help somebody, then now they can build a preferred future.
Sure.
I call it these evolutionary questions, where the question is so big it takes the whole session. That's so fun, man, just to kind of rock somebody's world. And man, they're just sorting it out. So what they're doing is that treasure, I'm mining for it like a miner. And they make self-discoveries. When you make a self-discovery, you're usually going to execute on it. When you realize you're stupid about certain things financially, or you're not eating right and you know it, and you make that discovery, that's when the change happens, right? Not just somebody telling you to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that no messing around approach. There's an old Geico commercial. I don't know if you remember, but he's a military guy, and his name escapes me, but he's sitting there and he's acting as a therapist, and the guy's laying down on the couch, and he looks at him and he goes, "You know what makes me sad? You do."
I remember that. That's a great actor.
Yeah. I forget his name. He passed.
I'm not quite that bad, but I have asked some very hard questions, especially even in the high corporate, where somebody's had this real fast trajectory up into the C-suite. Mm-hmm. They're really smart. They're really sharp. They're well dressed. They communicate well, but they can't get out of. They're reading their own PR. It's just ridiculous. And then I was able to ask them a question that rocks their world. Come in the side door and ask a question and say, "Now, hang on a second. Let me ask you this. How could this look if you would get out of your own way, or draw that for me?" Whatever I might have to do with the technique, and to watch. So what they're doing then, I've just opened the door and they begin to self-coach. That is where it gets so off the chain, man. Yeah. That's like an athlete realizing, if I'll do this, if I'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'll do this, I actually can be the best runner at Brown University.
Right.
You start thinking about that. That coach is not doing that routine. That athlete's doing that routine. So that's that you have to flip your own switch, basically.
Sure. Yeah.
I try to get people to flip their own switch, and once they flip it, man, it's crazy. That's that preferred futuring lifestyle I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Well, you touched on a little bit with the gentleman that kind of made his way up very quickly and transitioned. How are you doing career transitions? I know you talked about that and how you guys get into that. Can you speak a little bit to that? Give us maybe an example or two.
Yeah, and I'll try to keep it brief. I know our time is precious here, but
sure.
So, I guess maybe 5 or 6 years ago, most of my clients were beginning to age out a little. Mm-hmm. When I say age out, I'm 48, 52, somewhere in here, 55 at the very late. They're wanting to maybe consider a transition, but I'm already their coach, and usually, so they're taking me along with them on the journey. And so then we begin to put in career transition programs that come at things a little differently. Now, how would you rebrand yourself? How do we retool your resume? How do we take a look at your LinkedIn and all your digital footprint and tell a different story? We actually, with a Trove website, use Story Brand as a platform to tell the story. But then with that, I'm handing people off to headhunters and recruiters and search firms, but I'm preparing them for the interview. I'm preparing them for the new brand.
Sure.
Sometimes they just want to get out of a huge $500 million corporation and get down into a $10 million business. So it's some of that, but we added franchise advisory credentials. 2 of us did.
Okay.
So that I can take a client all the way to a business purchase. Mm-hmm. And we have a webinar coming up next Thursday that's about that. So some people think, I can be a consultant back in this industry, but I also could own a business that it'd be kind of a legacy decision for me and my family. My kids, we can, because franchises are all over the map. They're not just fast food. They're everywhere. Everything you can think about has a franchise brand to it. There's about 4,000 plus. There'll be 18,000 new franchises opened in America this year. No matter what the economy is. On a bad day, it's 16 or 17,000 franchises will open. So that we've added that, well, I call it gravity to the career transition program, because now they are they're kind of interested in it. We do a matching just like eHarmony. Mm-hmm. Okay, this guy or this lady, she's got this talent and this brand, this is their core values, and this is what they're looking for. We put them together. we turn the invoice off with the client and coach them for free because the brand pays us for the match. It's like a retained search. So that's been exciting as well. Over the last 3 years, we've added that to our career coaching. So most of the career transition is a person either wanting to improve inside of their the trajectory inside their business, or they want to leave that and stay in the same industry, but downsize or reshape, their role, or completely reinvent themselves. And that's where we get into a personal rebranding process.
Awesome.
So everybody has a brand,
everybody does have a brand. And you're probably better at marketing than you realize, because a lot of those things are very similar in marketing. It's brand. You can rebrand. You're working on awareness. You're working on your diction and your verbiage and how do they talk, right? It's the same thing with any company, any client, of making sure that you stay within the brand guidelines. And then you're also using a little bit of creativity and how do you tell that story? So it's the same thing almost with you guys is how do you tell the story of, Joey Bag of Donuts, C-class executive, what is going to get him to that next level? Is it, raising his brand? Is it changing the way that he talks, within his company, outside of his company? And so there's a little bit of marketing already kind of into what you do, but we're a little pressed for time. I did want to ask you about how Trove is currently managing their marketing, because I'm a little curious, and I know that you guys are probably doing that on a day-to-day basis as well.
Dakota, in the early days, we actually had, before we were having like paid AdWords and social media, we did a lot of things. So we wrote white papers, a whole lot of thought leadership. Yeah. And we sort of did it the old way. One interesting story, my brother-in-law was a salesperson down in Mississippi and New Orleans area. Mm-hmm. One day he's sitting in a sales team meeting. He's one of the guys, been there forever, and sitting at the board table that morning for their morning fired up huddle they were having was an article I had written, and he just kind of looked down as a PDF, and he said, "This cannot be true that I'm going to have to go endure my brother-in-law's article." But in the old days, what we did is we just had a mailing list, and we sent out, and we did it that way. And then we've let our website help us. Sure. But to be honest with you, we're not where we need to be. We use social media a lot. We are connected in the world of coaching. Every coaching firm has a little bit of a different niche. Like I say, people say, well, we're kind of a Bentley showroom. People find us. Yeah. We get a lot of referral business. We are very different because there's two psychologists running it. Mm-hmm. It's not just go get a coaching credential. I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound too elite, but what we do, but a lot of word of mouth, but and it's hard for us to tell the story on our own. So we've tried several marketing. We've been successful, don't get me wrong, but we're not at a level. It's hard to tell an intangible story, as you know. Yeah. Everybody has a story. So we do social media, we do paid marketing campaigns and things like that. So we just converted to Story Brand as our Trove website. It's very minimal now. It used to be a lot of information. That's how people seem to buy. Now they're buying stories and testimonies, and so people that visit our website will see that it's a story. We take people on a journey, and we had to have a marketing firm help us to know to do that. So we're not great at it. I mean, I think we're pretty good coaches, but man, we don't know. We don't know what we don't know, right?
Sure. So there's always room for improvement. And, absolutely. And if you think there's not, then there's a lot more probably than you think. But the referral business. I mean, those are irresistible clients. The people that have referred you. But it gets scary to just live in the world of referrals. Sure. Yeah. You've got to have some kind of strategy, some kind of approach that that way you don't have to always fall back on referrals. But Rick, we're pressed for time, but before I close it out, I wanted to give you a chance to say your motto and tell us what that means to you.
That motto?
Yeah.
Well, I have this in my bio. No matter what's happening, let's enjoy this.
Yeah. When in doubt, let's enjoy this.
I do get stressed. I do get torqued at times, but in general, I just love life, man. I believe if you wake up and you declare we're going to enjoy this today, I think it shapes a whole bunch of opportunities. They seem to fall in your lap, you know?
Yeah. There's a gentleman that I've met through work, and he's always so chipper. He's always so happy. And so I asked him, I said, how, what are you doing that I'm not? Like, why are you so happy at an 11 out of 10 every day? He said, well, Dakota, I'll tell you. He goes, every morning when I wake up, he goes, as silly as this sounds, he goes, I look in the mirror and I smile at myself until I start laughing. Because, somebody else that's watching in may think I'm a little psychotic, but he goes, it gets me laughing, and I start my day with a laugh every single day. Yeah,
that's a great approach. That's a preferred futuring approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah. Well, Rick, before we sign off, is there what's the best way that somebody can get in contact with you, with Trove? I know you said you've got a webinar next week. How do people get on and view that? Can you tell us the best way to contact you guys?
The easiest way is to do trovecoach@gmail.com. That's our main deal. Troveinc.com is the website. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Rick Forbus, PhD, and Facebook. And we're always running things like we're doing right now.
Sure.
The webinar next week is going to be pretty exciting for us. We're going to be talking about, franchise that have a certain set of core values and that match we call it faith in franchising, but that's on that's the 21st at 1:00 Eastern time. If anybody wants to get my social media stuff, you can register right there with that. So it's going to be a little bit like a talk show, set up for to answer questions about people that may be thinking about that. But trovecoach@gmail.com, and you can I can share with you resources, books, and things, and articles that we've written. And
really.
Okay, this is fun, man.
Yeah, I loved it. Rick, thanks for getting up this morning and joining me here on The Jungle. Again, guys, I'm your host, Dakota Ward. It was such a pleasure to have you on here, Rick. We'll have to go fly fishing sometime soon.
Let's do it. I know where to go, man.
All right. Well, sounds good. Thank you, and I hope you have a blessed rest of the day.
You too.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks for having me. Privilege.
Absolutely. Anytime.